like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Ooh, what's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, we got quite a bit of pretty cool Funko Pop announcements for the last couple of weeks. And I say the last couple of weeks because obviously last week, which thank you to everyone who watched last week's episode, which was our Scott Pilgrim versus the World podcast, our latest fandom related podcast. It was such a fun episode to record. And then a week ago prior to that, we had our special 50th episode, which had Robbie D from Funko Pop Monthly as a third co-host, which we'd never done before, which was pretty good. Yeah, so that brings on to that we're going to bring back the segment of What's the Haps, which obviously those new to the podcast will explain when we get to that segment of what that is. We'll talk about a couple of the Funko Pop announcements that were announced on the same week as some of the pops we talked about a few weeks ago, and then we'll talk about what has happened basically last week. Basically, the pops we will be talking about today go from August 5th to August 15th, which as we record this, it is August 17th, but unfortunately in today's podcast, we won't be talking about the newly announced The Child Pop that will be exclusive to EB Games GameStop, where he's holding the control knob, I think it is. We will talk about that next week, which actually, surprisingly, next week's episode is already going to be our top 10 Funko Pops for the month of August. We will be ending the podcast after we talk about the Funko Pop announcements with the announcement of our next fandom-related podcast. So now we can move on to our segment, What's the Haps, which simply for those new to the podcast, we talk about what we've been doing basically the last week or two. We'll kick off with MD. What have you been doing the last week or two?
All right, so of course, like I've said before, I'm back to work, so my time now with doing things on my kind of downtimes is a lot more scarce, I guess, but I have been doing a lot of stuff while I'm off. First thing, I'm very close to finishing The Office. I am on season 9, and wow, I've heard a lot of bad things about The Office, like, oh, the last 2 seasons suck because Michael Scott's not in it, but I love Andy Bernard, Nard Dog, and I think these last 2 seasons have been pretty good for what they are, so that's pretty much all I've been watching. I've been playing Pokemon Go, of course, like I've said before. There was just yesterday, was it? Yeah, yesterday. As we film this, it's a Monday. So Sunday was the makeup day for GoFest and Pokemon Go. And honestly, it was kind of a letdown. I only got one shiny. I got the shiny Alolan Marowak, but one shiny was good enough. I kind of expected to get maybe 2 or 3, but one is great, and it was one that I kind of wanted the most. So that's awesome. Last but not least, I bought an Oculus Quest. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a VR headset, and oh, it's amazing. I ended up spending about $800 Canadian on it, but I don't regret any of that money. This is just such an amazing experience. I have just a couple games on it right now. I have VR fishing, which is just so much fun. I love fishing, so it's so cool to do it on VR. And I also bought this one app called Wander. And it is basically like Google Street View, if you guys know what that is, where you can just go anywhere in the world and view like the street and kind of walk around. But when you do it on VR, it's just so much more immersive. So, of course, I checked out my house first. It tells you what year the photos were taken. So I'm looking at my house from back in 2014 where my stepdad had a motorcycle and we had a Chrysler 300 in the driveway, and it was just kind of like a throwback to the past a little bit. So then I walked around like our mall, like the outside of our mall, and kind of checked out my work and stuff to see if I could see anybody. Didn't see anybody. And then I went to Disneyland just to see what was up there, and I figured it'd be cool to walk around Disney. So I'm laying in bed. It's like 2 a.m, and I'm walking around Disney, and I end up falling asleep with the headset on my head still. And I wake up about 45 minutes later, and I'm still in Disneyland. And for like a solid 10 seconds, I was like, what in the hell is going on here? And then I realized, like, oh crap, still in VR. And then I took the headset off and I said, okay, it's time for bed. But I have not put the thing down. As soon as we're done with this, I'm hopping back on VR because it is so much fun. So, DK, what's the haps with you?
Yeah, what's the haps with me? So what I have been watching, so first of all, I think I mentioned it whenever we had the last What's the Haps. So I think it was literally at the end of July. The Umbrella Academy Season 2 season 1 I'd rewatched in preparation for it, but man, season 2 I felt was better than season 1. And I have been going to the gym quite a bit. I've actually surprisingly been maintaining to go every other day, so bi-daily. I have surprisingly been able, not the whole games, but I have been able to catch a couple of NHL hockey games because here in Canada, we love hockey and the playoffs have begun, the return to play playoffs. The only games I have watched, I can't remember who they were facing, but it was during the qualifying round. It was Colorado, and it was the exact game where they got the winning goal in the third period in 0.1 seconds, which was insane to see because I was literally like, all right, I'm going to be watching an overtime. And then it was just like 0.1 second. I'm like, holy crap, what a way to break the tie in 0.1 second. And then another game I quickly caught for a little bit was, I think, one of the Toronto Maple Leafs and Columbus, I think they were facing in the qualifying round. I think it was one of their games that I faced. I never got the chance to watch any Pittsburgh Penguins games, which, you know, they ended up losing in the qualifying round. And technically, as an actual playoff season, this is the first time, technically, that Pittsburgh has not made the playoffs since 2006. So it's crazy that Pittsburgh has went, I think it's 12 or 13 years straight going into the playoffs. Yeah, so I've been catching some NHL. But as terms to other movies and TV series, last night I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 because I watched number 1 a few weeks ago and I'm like, I don't know what else I'm going to watch. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. And it was all right. I felt the first one was better. I watched Treehouse of Horror, all of the Treehouse of Horror episodes for The Simpsons that were on Disney Plus. And then I've been watching The Office also. I started rewatching The Office again just because I never know what I'm actually going to watch on Netflix, even though I keep saying like, all right, after I'm done this show, I'm going to go watch My Hero Academia, but that seems like it's always on the back burner. But I've been watching The Office for probably since they did the announcements that we are going to be talking about today on the podcast. And I am on season 6. It's been a blast watching The Office again. So now we'll move on to the Funko Pop announcements for, I would say, a couple of weeks ago. So the same week that the Treehouse of Horror Pops were announced and that one Happy Gilmore Pop was announced. Starting off August 5th, Big Apple Collectibles had announced their own exclusive Funko Pop of Brainiac from Superman. And this is available for pre-order now, but it's expected to release as early as October 2020. Then on the same day, Entertainment Earth had announced their own exclusive Wood Deco Iron Man, which this is available for pre-order now and is expected to release as early as September 2020. And then announced on the same day, once again by Funko themselves, though, is the 4th of 6 Pop Deluxe sets for the Battle at Echo Base Empire Strikes Back set that will be exclusive to Amazon like the other 3 of the Probe Droid. So that is available for pre-order now and it's expected to release as early as October 2020. And then a very highly anticipated announcement we have been waiting for years, and that is How I Met Your Mother Funko Pops, which there are only 2. We got ourselves Barney Stinson and we got Ted Mosby, which these are expected to release as early as November 2020. So the Brainiac Funko Pop, now I remember Big Apple did a little sneak peek of what their next exclusive was going to be. And obviously I knew from looking at the box, you could tell that it was Superman, which is where Brainiac is from. Not really knowing what Brainiac is, this looks pretty cool, honestly. I do like the amount of different colors that are involved with this. And I don't know what's going on with the head, but obviously hardcore Superman fans would know, or even, I guess, hardcore DC fans in general probably would know. The Wood Deco Iron Man. I think I've said in the past where we talk about the Captain America last year and it was like, why is this wooden? This doesn't really make sense. And then back in April, we talked about the Wood Deco Groot, which totally makes sense because Groot is a tree. But then once again, now it seems like Wood Deco is becoming the next milked specification. I guess that's the word I'm going to use today for like a diamond collection. But now it's Wood Deco and it just seems weird. The Probe Droid. So obviously when we did the Empire Strikes Back podcast, which we'll put a little suggestion thingy above so that you guys can go listen to that after this if you want, we were guessing what pops were going to be next. And I think it was a no-brainer that we were going to get the Imperial probe droid, or I forget what the exact name of the droid was. I remember saying it in that episode, though. It looks really cool with the amount of details they put on, especially with the different, I don't want to say eyes, but it's more of like the, I guess, spy cameras. You know what? I guess they're more of eyes, but they're meant to be kind of like spy cameras so that the Imperial Galactic Empire looks over on the Rebel Alliance on Hoth during this, which I think this is really cool. I can't wait to see what the other two pops are. I don't think it's the best one out of this set, but it's still a cool pop that we got. Then we got How I Met Your Mother, which I was so pumped to just hear this announcement because How I Met Your Mother is such a great TV series. And I remember watching it for the first time. I think it was either last year or the year before. And I just loved the series. Barney Stinson was my absolute favorite character throughout the series. He's that one character that kept me watching this series. And Neil Patrick Harris did such a great job with this character. And then Ted Mosby, it's him with the blue French horn. I think he does this in one of the first episodes, and he did it, I think, in the very last episode also. A lot of people aren't really hyping for these two specific pops, just for the fact that Barney Stinson, his body is the exact same body as Don Draper from the Madman set. And then not a lot of people are a fan of the hairstyle of Ted Mosby in this pop because they think that the hairstyle should be more spiky, which I do agree. But I think also they're trying to portray Ted Mosby in the last episode where he's supposed to be like older Ted Mosby with the more combed hair. It is what it is. I'm sure there's going to be more. And obviously, looking back at the comments, I knew that I wasn't the only one who wants a rubber ducky tie Barney Stinson and wants a Robin Scherbatsky let's go to the mall, I would say Hot Topic exclusive, because that would totally make sense to have a pop of someone at the mall at a store that 90% of them are inside of malls. So I can't wait for those pops because I know I'm going to get both those. Those are the two definite pops I would get if they made a Barney Stinson with the rubber ducky tie and a Robin Scherbatsky as Robin Sparkles.
Yeah, so the Brainiac, this pop looks really cool, but I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the kind of like wires that are coming out of his head. I'm assuming that they probably just won't be there for the pop and it'll just be the pink, I don't even know what to call it. Like, we'll call them ports for now, the ports to his head. But even just with that, I think this pop looks pretty cool, and it's a good addition, I guess you could say, to a DC collection for Funko Pops. The Wood Decal Iron Man, I'm iffy on this one, because I don't mind the Wood Decal Pops. I think they're kind of a neat idea, and obviously it seems like we're just going down the route of Marvel with them for now, which completely fine with. Let's not mass produce these right now. Let's just stay with Marvel. I like the idea of the Iron Man being a Wood Decal Pop, but it's kind of weird. I don't know what it is about it, but I feel like because it's wood deco, like his body just looks a little thick to me. Like, I don't want to say fat because he doesn't look like he's fat, but he just looks a little thicker than when you'd have this same pose that's colored where he looks more thin, I guess. So maybe fat is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. But then the probe droid, yeah, we kind of saw this coming, but it's great. One of the best things about this is that, of course, they're doing it for this anniversary, and it makes so much sense because I don't think we'd ever get this pop without it being for the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. And, I mean, it looks amazing. Like, what I'm doing right now is I'm zooming in on the photo, and you can even see, like, they could have easily just went with a kind of gunmetal gray flat paint job, but they kind of made it so it looks a little rustic, and obviously it would because it's being snowed on, obviously, in the harsh conditions of Hoth. So I think this looks really, really great. Will I get it? That's a tough question. I'm not sure. Then the How I Met Your Mother pops. This is amazing. I'm so happy about this. I love How I Met Your Mother. I've loved this series ever since it came out. I've watched it a couple of times now, actually. And I don't mind that the Barney Stinson has a reprint body because, one, if Funko does reprint bodies, it kind of pushes them where they're kind of saving money and they can be a company for longer. I'm not saying that they're like dying and that they're not going to be a company for much longer, but I feel like this preserves the longevity of their brand by doing some of these reprints, especially when it's stuff like this with How I Met Your Mother, where we've so desperately wanted this series to be popified, and now we finally have it. And I think it's just great. The Barney Stinson looks great, and the Ted Mosby looks great. And I'm so happy that they included the French horn, because then you could just tell, especially if you're a fan of the show, you go, okay, that's definitely Ted Mosby. I could see where people are coming from, where they want the spiky hair, but I think both pops look great, and I can't wait for more to come out in the series.
Now, as I think about it, how cool would this series be if they also had what the Office Pops have, and that's their own quotes on the flaps? Like,
Oh my God.
what if Barney Stinson's quote, you flip it up and it says, "Have you met Ted?"
Yeah, that would be unreal.
All right, so now we're moving on to what would have been technically last week's Funko Pop announcements, but like we said, we had the Scott Pilgrim versus the World podcast last week, but we do have a sweet lineup to kick off with and a pretty decent pop to end off this entire week that lasts from the 10th of August up until the 15th. So starting off, we have PlayStation Pops, which all of these are going to be exclusive to EB Games/GameStop, which one of them already was previously announced by GameStop, which is the Joel Pop from The Last of Us. All of these are going to be released as early as September 2020, which we have a 2-pack of Ratchet and Clank, followed by Sam Porter, which I forget what game he was from. I forgot to write that down. And then we have a Twisted Metal Pop Rides of Sweet Tooth with the ice cream truck. August 11th, Funko had announced a Pop Deluxe of Snoopy on Doghouse with Woodstock for the Peanuts lineup, which this is going to be expected to release as early as November 2020. Then on the same day, announced by Funko, they had announced more Pops for the James Bond lineup, more specifically for the movie No Time to Die, which this set we have James Bond, Safin, Nomi, Paloma, and Moonraker, which those are expected to release as early as November 2020. And then, like I had kind of mentioned a bit earlier, we have a new wave of the Office Pops, which, straight fire. We got ourselves here common Pops of Jan Levinson with Wine and the Candle, Dwight Schrute as the Scranton Strangler, Michael Scott with the Straight Jacket, and Jim Halpert with the Nonsense sign. And then exclusive Pops, we got Michael Klump, which will be exclusive to EB Games/GameStop, Kevin with the tissue box shoes, which will be exclusive to Box Lunch, Michael Scarn, which will be exclusive to Go Games and Toys, Dwight Schrute as Pam Beasley, which will be exclusive to the Funko Shop, and then what definitely is my favorite pop of this new wave, the Scranton Boys 2-pack, which will be exclusive to FYE, and those are expected to release as early as November 2020. Then announced by Funko on the next day on the 13th, and I probably forgot to mention that on August 12th, that's when the Office Pops were announced. So August 13th, we have ourselves a wave of Critical Role Pops, which this set we have common Pops of Pike Trickfoot, Percival Del Rolo, Grog Strongjaw, Vex, Vax, Scandalon Short Halt, Keyleth. Then we have an Armored Trinket, which will be a specialty series exclusive, and is expected to release as early as November 2020. And then last but not least, to discuss on this podcast for this week, we got ourselves a Pop and Tea bundle of a glow-in-the-dark Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, which this is going to be exclusive to EB Games/GameStop, and is expected to release as early as September 2020. All right, so starting off with these PlayStation Pops, which, oh my God, Ratchet and Clank, I popped huge for this. I'm like, oh my God, Ratchet and Clank, like, that's one of those things that, like, isn't on the top of my mind for, like, man, how cool would it be to have Ratchet and Clank Pops? But looking at these look so cool. Clank looks so good. This is going to be a huge top-selling 2-pack. I'm already predicting it. But I know there was some bad hype in the sense of, we have Ratchet and Clank, where is... crap, I forget. It's like Jackson something.
Jack and Dexter.
Jack and Dexter. That's it. Forgot the names there. But people want those Pops now too. And then we got Sam Porter, which is all right, but this Twisted Metal Pop Rides is nuts. The detail is so great. And it's so cool that we're getting the return of Twisted Metal Pops, because I think the last time we got one was just a simple Sweet Tooth Pop that was, I think, released in like 2016 or 2017. It's been at least 3 or 4 years since we had a Twisted Metal Pop. Like, this brings back childhood memories of my brother and I playing, I think it was Twisted Metal 4, whatever the game was, where the main theme song was Dragula by Rob Zombie. Every time I think of Twisted Metal, I think of Dragula by Rob Zombie. And I remember Sweet Tooth with the ice cream truck, but the character I always played, and it would be cool, it would definitely get it as a Funko Pop. I think it was Pizza Boy, and he just drove a car that was meant to deliver pizzas. And that's the character I always played in the Twisted Metal games. And I just thought that would be cool to make a Funko Pop of in the future. And I think they should make more Twisted Metal Pop rides because I think those would sell. And obviously, you had to kick off with Sweet Tooth because he is the main character. The whole thing involving this Pop Rides is awesome with the ice cream truck and especially the detail with the eye and his teeth that we got going on here. So this is going to be a huge seller also. The Peanuts Pop Deluxe, this one's pretty cool. I mean, I don't collect the Peanuts line per se, but this is pretty cool, honestly, with Snoopy kind of just like laying on the doghouse. And then you got a 2-for-1 deal going on with this Pop Deluxe, which is very nice. The James Bond Pops, they're all right. I don't collect James Bond, nor do I watch the movies or play the games. Actually, I think I played GoldenEye on the N64, I think it is, once. But that's it. The Office, so good. This is a pretty good wave, honestly, especially the exclusives. It's cool we got a Jan Pop because, once again, I love when they make new characters. The Straight Jacket scene I actually just watched recently. I think it was season 5 that was on. One of the last episodes I did just watch was the Kevin with the tissue box. That was at Pam's wedding. That's part of season 6, which is what I'm on right now. Yeah, the comments are pretty cool, but the exclusives, Michael Klump, hilarious. Kevin with the tissue box shoes is also awesome. And while rewatching The Office, I've been trying to think of what exactly the quotes are going to be in the inside flap of the boxes with these characters. Like Kevin's seems obvious that he's going to talk about Kleenex shoes are a success, and then he's going to talk about dipping his feet in the ice box. The Michael Scarn, I didn't even know that this was Michael Scarn when I first looked at this because I thought that the Michael Scott in this scene was that episode. I don't think I've rewatched it yet because I think that's later on, but it's the scene where they're playing, I think, Clue or some sort of mystery game. And then there's the scene where like there's like 4 people at a time who like are thinking like they are the killer. So then they have like the guns out like this, all pointing at each other. So I thought it was that, but it's cool that we're getting a Michael Scarn. There is a little bit of like, I guess I would call it OCD bad hype because the Michael Scarn is actually going to have a threat level midnight box, which is totally wicked. But with the Golden Face Gym that already has the older Office box, it's going to be very weird to put those beside each other. But it's still cool that they're making more characters for the threat level midnight. That was such an awesome episode. And I know that was, I think, season 7, if I'm not mistaken. Dwight as Pam. I remember this one. Such a funny scene. What I hope they do is eventually make a bunch of Dwight Pops that are dressed up as the other characters because he's done that. Like there was Dwight as Jim at one point in the same episode as Jim as Dwight. There was the specific scene where Dwight is dressed up as Meredith and then Stanley, which is super funny. So I hope they keep doing that. That actually might be the same episode as this. Then we saved the best for last. The Scranton Boys 2-pack. This is amazing. Oh my God. I love this scene. That was in season 3, I believe, where they're showing an orientation video for the new workers coming from the Stanford branch, where it's Dwight and Michael rapping. They talk about how good of a city Scranton is. I know you sent me a voice message of how it kicks off, and then I think I spit back Dwight's line, which I remember it's like, yo, Mike, this town is dope and pretty. Oh, man, it's so good. Definitely, like I'm already calling it, the inside the flap is going to say Scranton, what? The Electric City. And that's all it's going to say. And that's all it needs to say.
Yeah.
Unless somehow, how amazing would it be if they put the whole entire song lyrics on one flap?
Oh my God, that'd be ridiculous.
Because they've done some like ridiculously long quotes for the Office Pops on those flaps. Like Stanley's quote, the Stanley Hudson with the pretzel pop, his quote is freaking long. Critical Role Pops, these are all right. The one guy, I don't know what his name is actually. I think it's Grog Strongjaw, the third one on the top row. Kind of looks like Kratos, but like more gray. And then all the other pops, they're very detailed, but obviously I don't really know Critical Role all that much. And then we got the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, which This glow in the dark pop looks pretty cool, honestly, from what I'm looking at in the glam shot wise. I like to see what this ends up turning out to be in person because this looks like it has the potential to have as much of a nice glow as that Perfect Cell did for Emerald City Comic Con because of the way that they're showing in the glam shots, or even as nice as the 6-inch Brawly chase that came out last year for Dragon Ball Z, or is Dragon Ball Super, one of the two. This entire box is pretty cool, actually. I like the way that the shirt is, and I like the box.
Oh my goodness. There is some great pops that are coming out. Well, that were announced this month so far. Just amazing. Of course, the Ratchet and Clank are huge. When I seen this, I was like, wow, this is awesome. It totally makes sense for them to make these pops. I mean, they got their own movie, which was great if you haven't seen it. Of course, the games are phenomenal as well. And the Clank looks really, really good because it looks basically just like it would if you were to make just a normal figure of it. All these PlayStation Pops look really cool. I'm glad that there are PlayStation Pops that are coming out. The Peanuts Pop of Snoopy and Woodstock, I popped huge for this. I don't have any of the Peanuts Pops. I kind of wanted to get them when I first started collecting Pops, but it never happened. But this is definitely one where I will be getting this because this is just so iconic. I love it. Like, it's so classic how he's on top of the doghouse just looking up into the sky, and it's just amazing, and it's very, very well done. The No Time to Die Pops, the 007 Pops, these are 100% shelf sitters. These will be $8.99, $7.99, and then 99 cents at EB Games in less than 2 years. I guarantee it. They're just not amazing pops. They look all right, and I'm sure some people are excited for them, but they are definitely going to be shelf sitters. The Office Pops. Oh my god, this is huge. Especially because I am a relatively new Office fan. I mean, I've always been a fan of The Office, but that was just me watching episodes here and there. And now that I am almost 100% done the series and I know just about everything, I'm so in love with the show. And to have a new wave coming out is amazing. Of course, Jan being a highlight is awesome because, like you said, new characters is great. A new Jim because Jim is my favorite. Love to see new Jim pops. But I think my favorite pop out of this is the box lunch exclusive. Kevin. This is so funny. I loved this episode at the wedding because, yeah, I feel like I know exactly what the quote on the box would say. It would say, the tissue box shoes were a great discussion piece, but my dogs are barking. And I just thought that was so hilarious because me and one of my coworkers, we always say after let's say like a 10-hour shift, like we're getting like about 8 hours into our shift and we look at each other and we're like, wow, our dogs are barking. And then he even proceeds to take off the tissue boxes and stick his feet in the ice machine, which is hilarious because obviously I work in a restaurant, so we have an ice machine, but of course we don't put our feet in it. It was just a great scene, and I love this pop so much. I love how he has the full head of hair. The whole pop is amazing. This whole lineup is great, especially the exclusives, and the Scranton Boys is hilarious as well. My favorite line is when Michael says, what does he say? Like something about like the lazy city of Scranton, the electric city. They call it that because the electricity. And it's just so stupid, but so funny. And this 2-pack looks so amazing, and I can't wait to get all of these pops. I'm so happy about the way that the Office pops are going, and they deserve it because people love them. The Critical Role pops, these look pretty good, actually, and I'm really, really glad. Like I said about that first Critical Role pop we got, it's like, wow, this is something kind of new and refreshing for Funko. That's great to see. I probably won't get any, but I'm really, really glad that they are doing these pops. And it's cool that we have a new specialty series pop also. I wanted to mention that because specialty series for a while was like my favorite kind of quote unquote exclusive pop. I feel that way because usually the pops that they do for that, like one that's coming to mind is Harry Monster from Sesame Street. That was a good pop to kind of round off your collection of Sesame Street pops. And I find that Specialty Series does that with a lot of the pops. It's like that one last character where it's like, okay, this feels like a complete set now. Then the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. This is a really cool pop. I like the way the pop looks. Hopefully the glow in the dark is great. I really, really like the shirt. Now, normally I wouldn't like a shirt like this because it's basically just a Funko Pop shirt, whereas when you get a shirt from Funko in a Pop and Tee combo, you kind of want it to be like a shirt where it kind of looks like it's a t-shirt from that series or franchise or whatever, but you can kind of tell that it's Funko as well, whereas this is just blatant, that's a Funko Pop, and then you have the Japanese writing, it says Son Gohan and then Dragon Ball Z. but I think it's done very, very clean, and I just love how it's just those vibrant colors on the Gohan. The box is all right. I love purple, so it of course stands out to me, but I think it's pretty good.
All right, so that's going to be the end of talking about Funko Pops, which means now it is time to talk about the next fandom-related podcast. So a few months ago, we did discuss that we're going to have one fandom-related podcast a month for the remainder of 2020. I'll kind of give a recap of what we have done so far. So in April, we did Yu-Gi-Oh! May, we did Empire Strikes Back. July, we did Back to the Future. And last week for August, we did Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Our September fandom-related podcast is going to be The Office. That's right. The Office, new wave of Funko Pops, which perfect time to talk about those. I know that we're like about 5 months late on the actual 15th anniversary of The Office because it was in March. But the week that we're going to be doing this podcast, which is going
That's
to
what
be
she said.
the week. All right. Anyways, so the week that we're going to be doing this podcast is, I'm pretty sure, Friday, September 25th. Right at the last podcast of September will be the Office podcast, and perfect timing on this new lineup because we can add these pops to the whole Office podcast, which we'll discuss all the Funko Pops involved, season by season. Where I was going to go with this actually is that the end of September actually marks the 15th anniversary of when season 2 of The Office began, because for those that may not remember, the first season of The Office only had 6 episodes. So they were able to do a season in 2005 and then kick off season 2 in 2005 to end it in 2006. This was actually like the first season where it had over 20 episodes like the whole series is, except I think season 4 only had 14 episodes, but the rest have over 20 episodes. I can't wait for this podcast, and it's going to be a great podcast. Anyways, guys, that's going to be the end of this week's podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you smash that like button to let us know that you're enjoying the content being provided to you guys on this channel. Comment in the comments section below on what your favorite Funko Pop announcements were this week. And if you're an Office fan, let us know what your favorite Funko Pop from the new lineup is. Press that subscribe button for more content like this podcast and any other videos we do on this channel in the future. And press the little bell beside it to be notified of when that future content gets released. And if you haven't yet, follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at a Funko Popcast. It'll be listed in the description below. But anyways, guys, thank you all for listening to this week's podcast, and we hope to see you guys next week for our top 10 Funko Pops list for the month of August 2020. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Peace in and peace out.